The plantation has long been used as an analogy for the arena that men put themselves into if they choose to get married under the current situation, with the laws being what they are in the Western world, North America, Canada, Australia, and other places that are quickly following suit. Argentina, Brazil. I was thinking about this. The plantation is a beautiful, beautiful illustration. And we rush past it and give a quick chuckle about it, but it's got a lot of rich parallel to it. The plantation, of course, you have massa, you have overseers, you have slaves, of course, as the main players. When you get to the plantation, there are people who are considered to actually live there, and there are people who are actually tools to be used there. And we allow them to be there simply because, well, they have to be there in order for us to have access to them, to be able to use them, to get what we want for ourselves. We immediately see the parallel, the analogy. We immediately see it, and it's accurate. There are those on the plantation who have actual rights, and there are those who are there who only are going to have responsibilities, no rights. We're going to see that massa holds all the power. He and whoever to whom he delegates it, including his family and his overseers and even his visitors. Even the horses and dogs have more rights than the slaves. The lowest of the low is the slave, who has to be constrained. Doesn't have to be, but I was going to say is constrained, and has to, I guess I will say that, has to beg for everything he gets. Any comfort, any sense of approval, any semblance of love. Men are exactly right to fight back against something that would put them in such a position. Those slaves, no matter how hard they work, no matter how much effort they put out, the only thing they hear is, okay, now get up the next morning and go do more. Even when they do hear gratitude, there is something that the autobiography of Frederick Douglass pointed out. After he started pointing out that the pen with which he was writing the autobiography that was later on going to be published, he wrote that the pen that he was using to write out what he was saying could easily fit between the cracks that had appeared in his feet, where his skin cracked because the shoes and socks, if he could get them, were so poor, and his quarters were so cold and inhumane that his body was starting to split apart. And those who were supposed to be taking care of him, they were aware of it. They were well aware of it. And this was their decision. This is their response to it. For him to just shut up and take it. And by the way, get up in the morning and you better be ready to work. And work with everything you've got. And work for our convenience, for our benefit. Been seeing a lot of people arguing on the internet lately, not just YouTube, not just the manosphere, but in other arenas as well. It's been getting around that Dr. Phil wanted to have a debate with several MGTOW men who decided they're going their own way, which means they want to step away from what society has tried to relegate men to being, and walking away from the identity that they try to impose upon men, walking away from the role that they create for men and try to shame them, bully them, legislate them into to fulfilling. One of the arguments that I've heard from people who want that debate with Dr. Phil, who Donovan Sharp was very, very wise to turn down, by the way. Shout out to him. Respect to you for that. One of the things I'm hearing them say is that men need to be thinking about the future of the society. On one hand, they have a point. It's a partial truth. Well, of course, if you tell somebody a lie that's completely a lie, you will never get them to swallow it. You have to give something that actually is true, something that makes sense, something that will hold your attention and make you want to examine it more completely. We see that all the time when we fish. You can't just throw a hook in the water. You have to disguise it. And you have to disguise it with something desirable. Of course, men need to think about the society, and of course, men want to think about the society when you just get down to the bare bones of it. No thinking man with even a shred of humanity in him wants society to burn if it's not absolutely necessary. That would be sick. Of course, we don't want that. What's hidden there, though, is the hook, and men simply are seeing that hook. And the hook is, we want you to save society under our terms, which are not looking out for your interests at all, let alone your best interests. We want you to look out for society at only cost to you and only benefit to women. And thinking men say no. We want you to save society by breaking your back with work, relinquishing all rights, relinquishing all of your decision-making power, and putting it in the hands of women, who will then dispense it carefully at their whim, according to how well you're doing what they want you to do at any given moment. But they know that if they tell you that, if they let you know any of that, you won't swallow the hook. Of course not. Well, we won't swallow the hook anyway, even though you've disguised it for all this time. But thinking about the plantation, I've been looking at what some MGTOW men do. I respect that going their own way means exactly that, which means some men are not going to want to approach any of these issues biblically. Some of them want nothing to do with any idea of faith. I understand that. But let's look around and let's look at the fact that kicking God out of everything simply isn't working in many cases. So since those of you who've been listening to me for a little while, you know I approach everything biblically. And that includes when I've messed up or when I've made some sort of error in judgment. That's exactly where I'm going to go to fix it. That's the way that's going to go. And I've thought about this. The Bible gave us everything we needed to know about this hook situation, because this hook situation is coming from the heart. And Jeremiah 17:9 tells us the heart is deceitful and desperately wicked above all things. It says that the human heart is so wicked that there's no way you would absolutely no way you could possibly know what it's capable of. So you shouldn't trust the human heart. It told us that all the way back then. Go to the Garden of Eden and you see the lie. Satan didn't just tell the whole lie. He had to disguise it. Oh, you shall not die. Yes, he gave a flat out lie there. But then he got Eve's attention onto that fruit. It wasn't an apple, it was a fruit. We don't know what kind of fruit it was. Let's not argue about that. Genesis chapter, it's not chapter 1, but I think it's chapter 3 when this was happening. When she saw that the fruit was good for food, that was true. It was good. It just wasn't the point. God said, don't eat it. Don't touch it. You're going to die. And got her mind distracted off of the truth. It was pleasant to the eyes. Absolutely. That was true. It was desirable to make one wise. That was true. But it was hiding a hook. When we look at the fact that we still desire the beauty of women, not just their bodies, not just their faces, but the beauty that they can create when they live how they could live. They bring beauty to a situation. Their laughter, the way they toss their hair, the way they move around, or the way they used to move around, and when they used to have long hair and they didn't chop it off, screaming, "I am woman, hear me roar." They bring beauty when they dress places up. They bring beauty when they submit to a man and make it clear, whatever you say we need to go do, that's what I'm going to do. If they say that to a man who's led by the Spirit of God, there's something that happens to that man, and no wonder he's ready to just run through a field of wild horses. He's ready to swim through shark-infested waters. That's why we used to do those things. We were responding with what we already had in our minds. We'd be willing to do that kind of work in order to protect such a woman, to pour into such a woman. When we used to do those things, we saw their beauty, sure. And we desired all of that. We wanted to share it. We wanted to treasure it. Wanted to celebrate it. But in that beauty has come a hook. And that hook, some people don't like to admit this, but it's sin. Sin has corrupted the human race, and it's caused the human heart, including the heart of women, to be untrustworthy. So that's why just find the right woman doesn't work, because the supposed right woman has a heart that is deceitful and desperately wicked above all things. I, for one, say the problem is spiritual, and hence the solution is spiritual. If you walk away from women, the men that you have around you have corrupted hearts too. And what if the men had great hearts? You would still be missing what you know is supposed to be there with women. Let's admit that. You know it's not there, but let's get it. We're not stupid. We know what should be there, and it still does bother us that it's not there, because we see the potential. And there's no pain quite like knowing you can't have what you could have if only things were different. So the solution, only the proper positioning of Jesus Christ in his position of authority would fix this. But I wouldn't say that as, a flat out statement and then just leave it there. That says nothing. It pretends to say something. I'm talking about, first of all, personally, to have our heart changed, to have our desires changed, to have our mind cleansed, to have us run everything through a filter of holiness, righteousness, will cause us to look at other people and not be their chump, but at the same time not be their oppressor either. For us to be men of integrity, for us to be men that say what they mean and do what they say, and do for others and to others what we would have them do for us. Okay, Jesus Christ brings that about beautifully. But then, when it comes to relationship, he's told us many times, don't make friendship with an angry man, or you'll learn his ways. Don't shake your hand with somebody, in other words, make a business deal with somebody who is untrustworthy. He gives us warning about all of that. And so we would look for somebody who's surrendered, not just who talks. Too many women talk about Jesus Christ, talk about God. They're all up in the church clapping their hands, shaking tambourines, and they come out to places like here in New Orleans, and they find some place in there, and they're up there swinging their shirt around their head, shaking their behind to every kind of music imaginable. And these women come from all over the world. So this, I don't know where you find these women, doesn't work. I've seen so many women arrive here in business suits, and before you know it, they're with the sleaziest hookers that I've ever seen around here. That doesn't work. But back to my point. If a woman is surrendered to Jesus Christ, her actions have to say it, not just her mouth. As a matter of fact, her actions for a man are going to have to say it exclusively. We'd have to watch what she does to people she could run over. How honest is she with her business? How responsible is she when she's done something wrong, when she's not caught? Most importantly to me, how consistent is she with this? Which means it's going to take more than a couple of days in a nice body. But lastly, the laws that have kicked God out of the courtroom, kicked him out of the schools. That's been happening for a long time, and that's how we got to the place where we are, having courts that absolutely show men no respect, no honor, no fairness, and have destroyed our sense of expectation. The laws do have to be fixed, but if they're fixed according to man, we're still going to have messed up laws. That's my take on the plantation, because the plantation may not start from the courts, but it extends all the way to those courts. And all of it, I really believe, is happening from a spiritual base. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content. Give it a thumbs up. Let some other people know this is out there. Do that with all MGTOW videos, so that even if this isn't your speed, if this isn't your flavor, you can get it to the person whose flavor it is. Let's help each other with visibility, man. Now that we finally have a place where we can speak and it's not interrupted by women, since this is one of the few places we have left where we can just talk. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I'm interested in being sharpened by other men. This is Hot Ice.